3 weeks ago, we celebrated our nation's Independence Day, and today we're here to rejoice in and celebrate another Independence Day, one that is long overdue. And with today's signing of the landmark Americans for Disabilities Act, every man, woman, and child with a disability can now pass through once closed doors into a bright new era of equality, independence, and freedom. And as I look around at all these joyous faces, I remember clearly how many years of dedicated commitment have gone into making this historic new Civil Rights Act a reality. It's been the work of a true coalition, a strong and inspiring coalition of people who have shared both a dream and a passionate determination to make that dream come true. And it's been a coalition in the finest spirit, a joining of Democrats and Republicans, of the legislative and the executive branches, of federal and state agencies, of public officials and private citizens, of people with disabilities and without. This historic act is the world's first comprehensive declaration of equality for people with disabilities, the first. And its passage has made the United States the international leader on this human rights issue. And already, leaders of several other countries, including Sweden, Japan, the Soviet Union, and all 12 members of the EEC have announced that they hope to enact now similar legislation. Our success with this act proves that we are keeping faith with the spirit of our courageous forefathers who wrote in the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. And these words have been our guide for more than 2 centuries as we've labored to form our more perfect union. But tragically, for too many Americans, the blessings of liberty have been limited or even denied. And the Civil Rights Act of '64 took a bold step towards righting that wrong, but the stark fact remained that people with disabilities were still victims of segregation and discrimination, and this was intolerable. And today's legislation brings us closer to that day when no Americans will ever again be deprived of their basic guarantee of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This act is powerful in its simplicity. It will ensure that people with disabilities are given the basic guarantees for which they have worked so long and so hard: independence, freedom of choice, control of their lives, the opportunity to blend fully and equally into the rich mosaic of the American mainstream. And legally, it will provide our disabled community with a powerful expansion of protections and then basic civil rights. It will guarantee fair and just access to the fruits of American life, which we all must be able to enjoy. And then specifically, first, the ADA ensures that employers covered by the Act cannot discriminate against qualified individuals with disabilities. And second, the ADA ensures access to public accommodations such as restaurants, hotels, shopping centers, and offices. And third, the ADA ensures expanded access to transportation services. And fourth, the ADA ensures equivalent telephone services for people with speech or hearing impediments.
The ADA is based on the basic presumption that people with disabilities want to work and are capable of working, want to be members of their communities and are capable of being members of their communities, that exclusion and segregation cannot be tolerated. Accommodating a person with disability is no longer a matter of charity, but instead a basic issue of civil rights. Title I, Equal Employment Opportunity. This title is designed to help people with disabilities access the same employment opportunities and benefits available to people without disabilities. Employers must provide reasonable accommodation to qualified applicants and employees. A reasonable accommodation is any modification or adjustment to a job or a work environment that will enable an applicant or employee with a disability to participate in the application process or to perform essential job functions. Title II, Non-Discrimination of Basis of Disability in State and Local Government Services. Title II of the ADA prohibits discrimination against qualified individuals with disabilities in all programs, activities, and services of public entities. It applies to all state and local governments, their departments and agencies, and all instrumentalities or special purpose districts of state or local government. Title III, Public Accommodation. This title prohibits places of public accommodation from discriminating against individuals with disabilities. For example, private institutions must let in people who have service dogs. Title IV, Telecommunications. This title requires telephones and internet companies to provide a national system of interstate and intrastate telecommunications replay services that allow individuals with hearing and speech disabilities to communicate over the telephone. For example, Netflix and Hulu are required to put the option for subtitles for each of their TV shows and movies. Title V, Miscellaneous Provisions. The final title contains a variety of provisions relating to the ADA as a whole, including its relationship to other laws, state immunity, and its impact on insurance providers and benefits, prohibition against retaliation and coercion, illegal use of drugs, and attorney's fees. This title also provides a list of certain conditions that are not to be considered as disabilities. Proponents say that the ADA granted the same and equal protections of the civil rights and opportunities to the disabled. They argued that the comprehensive civil rights legislation will grant individuals with disabilities legal recourse for the years they were discriminated against based on their condition. Jackie Oken, a disabled individual under the American with Disabilities Act, dreamt of becoming an attorney. Through the ADA, she was able to become one. She stated, "Yet the idea not being able to accomplish these goals because of the discrimination is a foreign concept to me because of the ADA. I was only 13 when the law was passed. I have been extremely fortunate to grow up in a society where my rights have been protected." Opponents argue that the federal government should not be meddling in the affairs of private business. Llewellyn H. Rockwell states the ADA is utterly incompatible with a free society, which has ironclad rules against interfering with the right of free contract between employers and employees. In a free market, absent any labor regulations on business, disabled employees would become a benefit instead of a drain. ADA not only increases discrimination against the truly handicapped, it teaches them to be dependent when they could be independent otherwise. The ADA teaches America not to have compassion. Many opponents argue that the federal government has overstepped their bounds and are managing how employers should choose their employee. The controversial bill was passed in the Senate from a spectacular vote of 76 to 8 on September 7, 1989. The bill went to the House, where it was considered to be an unprecedented for committees. Each community lobbied different changes and amendments to the bill. Grassroots organizations became important because at this time, many business associations had rallied their members to write to congressional members to oppose or weaken the bill. However, the community stayed ununified and the bill passed. Some issues of federalism that are raised are the ADA requires businesses to spend large amounts of money to make their facilities accessible to the disabled. Liberals are in favor of the ADA. They believe that it is great at prohibiting discrimination and ensuring equal opportunity to persons with disability in employment, state and local government services, public accommodation, commercial facilities, and transportation. Conservatives do not believe this act is right for the American people. They believe it imposes a heavy burden on employers, especially with small business owners, at the same time disadvantaging those with disabilities. Libertarians are against it as well and believe it is to be a piece of legislation enacted with the least partisan dispute, which so often turns out to be the worst laws because its provisions were never tested in any serious public debate. State and federal government clash on the interpretation of the 14th Amendment. States have a hard time following the second clause of the ADA to have every building accessible to the disabled. Grandfather clause protects them from making their buildings accessible. Not all states are meeting all the requirements. We believe that such a law is necessary in protecting the civil rights of disabled citizens, but we also believe it is not being effective because it is a voluntary compliance law. This means that employers are expected to comply, but some do not, making it not so effective. Also, the ADA provides only injunctive relief and attorney fees to plaintiffs who successfully sue and win their cases.